My mother is the emperor's most beloved younger sister. Simply because I casually praise the war god. The emperor, my uncle, immediately bestowed a marriage decree upon us. The imperial edict had barely been issued when, the very next day, the war god's cousin invited me to burn incense at the temple of 10,000 Buddhas. Halfway there, we encountered bandits. Yet my fiancé rescued only his childhood sweetheart cousin. He carried his disheveled cousin back to the mansion, sparking a citywide scandal. To protect her reputation, he married her the very next day with the full honors of a primary wife. Trapped in the bandits' lair, I waited in agony day after day. The war god, undefeated in 100 battles, and my valiant father, the Prince of Pingnan, together, they couldn't even conquer the small Mount Lao. 3 months later, the war god finally slew the bandits. He then sought to take me as his concubine. Father advised me, speaking as if for my own good. The whole capital knows you've been on Mount Lao for months. Your reputation is ruined. Fortunately, Rongqing still wants you. You should accept. His childhood sweetheart cousin knelt before me, feigning supplication. If not for you, my cousin would never have married me. If the princess is displeased, I'll shave my head and become a nun. I watched her with a smile. Her scissors hovered midair, motionless. What? Are the scissors too dull? Qin mama. Go fetch Abbess Jing'an, her skill is superior. The scissors in her hand trembled. Had I not been driven to death within the manor in my previous life, I truly wouldn't have known this was all their conspiracy. Fortunately, I was reborn. Reborn just as they attacked Laozhan. The scissors slipped completely from Shinshui's hands and fell to the ground. Her face was streaked with tears. Pitiful and helpless. Princess. I admit it, I cannot live without my cousin. Even as a concubine, I beg you to spare me. Her display of devotion only fueled resentment among the soldiers who came to rescue me. I found it laughable. Very well. Then, please return to the manor. Concubine Shen. After my grand wedding, I shall select a date to formally take you in. She looked up in shock, meeting my gaze brimming with scorn. Her eyes darted frantically toward Rongqing beside her. The man regarded me coldly. She is my wife. Blame me if you must. Though her status may not match yours. She is gentle and kind. To marry her is my fortune. Rongqing. With that, he helped the delicate, boneless Shinshui to her feet. I smoothed my robes and rose. Since the general has chosen another, you must personally explain this to His Majesty. This princess will seek another husband. You. His fists clenched. Shinshui nestled into Rongqing's embrace, speaking with smug satisfaction. Princess. Don't act on impulse. Your reputation is ruined. After this broken engagement, who would dare marry you? I snorted derisively. Lady Rong truly meddles in matters none of her concern. If this princess truly remains unmarried in the future, I shall seek your guidance on how to usurp another's nest. Rongqing roared, enough. Dare to insult Shui again, and I'll have the Prince of Pingnan take you away. The general's residence has no place for a haughty woman like you. Father's face darkened. Yun Jiao. Stop your insolence. Apologize to Shui immediately. Qin mama. My attendant. Retorted in disbelief, why should I? The imperial decree clearly states the general's wife is our princess. Now she's usurped that title, the Rong family is committing treason. The princess passed away only 3 years ago. And now the prince consort wants to make the princess his concubine? And I'm supposed to apologize to this woman? Her eyes blazed red with fury as she looked at me with heart-wrenching concern. Smack! A whip lashed out with brutal force. Ah! Qin mama clutched her face as blood seeped through her fingers. You insolent servant! It's your fault Yun Jiao turned out this way. Guards! Take all her servants away. He then turned to me, his tone solemn. Once we return to the estate, Father will select a new set of servants to accompany you. Once you enter the general's residence, you must not act on whim anymore. As a concubine, you must respect the main wife and serve your husband. His benevolent fatherly demeanor gradually overlapped with the cold figure from my past life who had handed me the white silk. In my previous existence, after my death, I became a wandering spirit. I saw a portrait of a woman hanging in Father's study, bearing a striking resemblance to Shinshui. Hanging beside it was a love poem he'd written. Only then did I understand that woman was his unattainable white moonlight. For the sake of his moonlight's daughter, he'd sacrificed his own flesh and blood. A cold laugh rose in my throat as I stepped forward. "Stop!" I barked at the guards. My marriage was personally decreed by His Majesty's golden words. Is there an imperial decree ordering me to become a concubine in the Rong household? Qin Mama is a court lady bestowed upon my mother by the emperor, holding an official rank. Does Father have an imperial decree to expel them? The guards exchanged glances, all turning to look at Father. Father's gaze held a warning. A daughter obeys her father at home. Is your marriage not within my authority to decide? My Pingnan prince's mansion sends a few maidservants. Can the emperor really strip me of my authority? Seize them. But I've already received the imperial decree of marriage. Father conspires with the general to demote my wife to a concubine. Is this defiance of the imperial decree? I shouted to interrupt him, shielding Mother Qin behind me. Shinshui broke free from Rongqing's embrace and knelt before me. Sister, our foster father only means well. Shui grew up without a father. How she must yearn for someone who cares for her like this. Why can't you cherish him? Sister? Her words were pitiful, and Father's eyes brimmed with pity. Yet his gaze upon me held disdain, as if blaming me for being ungrateful. Foster father? This girl is quite something, no husband. So she steals mine, no father. So she steals mine. Once we return to the capital, noble ladies had best hide whatever they lack. Shinshui's face instantly drained of color. Father gazed at her with heartache, then roared at me, "Shut your mouth. Your aggressive manner shows not a shred of a proper young lady's decorum." On the day Rongqing's wedding, I took her as my adopted daughter. She is also a daughter of this Prince of Pingnan. The imperial decree only stated that Rongqing should marry into the Prince of Pingnan's household. It never specified which daughter. If you can marry, so can she. Shuyi, rise. Your adoptive father will see justice done. Shinshui looked deeply moved. Father. Then. What about sister? Her reputation is ruined. Without this marriage, will she truly become a nun? Father comforted her. You're so pure-hearted. Even after Yunjiao spoke to you like that, you still worry about her. She smiled gracefully. My sister's affairs are my affairs. If sister refuses to be a concubine, then how about becoming an equal wife? After speaking, she turned to look at Rongqing. Qinglang, is that acceptable? Rongqing frowned. Father-in-law, your son-in-law refuses to wrong Shui. If the princess enters this household, she can only be a concubine. Father nodded in agreement. I finally couldn't hold back and laughed aloud. While I'm fighting for my life on Mount Lao, you still have the heart to adopt a goddaughter? To an outsider, it'd seem I'm not your own flesh and blood. You're forcing me into a concubine's role. Could it be my ruined reputation is also your doing? Watching their faces darken, I feigned sudden understanding. Oh, no wonder I've waited so long without seeing Father conquer this mountain. Silence. This Lao mountain terrain is treacherous. How much effort have we poured into it? How dare you slander us? Do you not fear breaking the soldiers' spirits? You grow ever more insolent. It's time to send you to a temple to reflect. Guards! Escort the princess and her servants to Han Temple outside the city for penance. No sooner had the words left his mouth than the Pingnan prince's guards moved to seize me. Before his hand could touch me, I swept him off his feet with a kick. Look closely. What is this? I pulled the jade pendant from my bosom, my mother's keepsake. The Pingnan Prince's inner guard token. After mother's death, the inner guards answered only to father. In my past life, when I married, father wept as he took this jade, saying he'd keep it as a memento. Yet once I entered the Rome residence, I was utterly powerless. The guards saw the token and knelt in unison. Spare our lives, princess. Father's face turned ashen. Is this how you use what your mother left you? Daring to flex your authority before me. All these years of my teaching have gone to waste. Lay down that token now and reflect on your actions. I might still take you back. Otherwise, don't ever dream of returning to the capital in this lifetime. I stared at him coldly, refusing to budge an inch. Shadow guards, heed my command. Escort this princess back to the capital. Princess sister, beg for mercy now. Admit your mistake now, and our foster father won't hold it against you. Though Shuyi didn't understand, she knew the jade pendant was the princess's keepsake. Now the Prince of Pingnan's estate is ruled by our foster father. Sister, as a mere woman, how could you jeopardize these guards' futures? No sooner had she spoken than several kneeling guards began to waver. Father cast an appreciative glance at Shinshuyi before issuing his command. Shadow guards, heed my order. Those who escorted the princess to Han's Han Temple today shall be promoted 1 rank and receive double their salary. The Pingnan Prince's mansion will always be ruled by the Pingnan Prince. Though the princess holds a token of authority, she is but a woman, she cannot stir up much trouble. The guards began whispering among themselves. I clutched the token so tightly my nails snapped, digging into my palm. This shadow guard unit was personally trained by my mother. In just 3 years, they've forgotten their former master. Shinshuyi seized the moment to grasp my hand. Sister, be good. Hand the token over to our foster father. She waved her right hand, drawing my attention to a ring on her finger. Seeing my stare, she leaned close and whispered in a voice only I could hear. Sister, does it look familiar? The master said my constitution was weak and I needed a burial offering from someone of high rank and power to ward off evil spirits. My foster father retrieved this ring from the princess's tomb and gave it to me. She looked at me triumphantly. Besides the ring, there was also half of the princess's arm. It was burned to ashes and scattered in the courtyard of the general's residence. You couldn't even protect her remains. Yet you expect to keep what she left you? Rage boiled within me, you bitch. How dare you? Before I could act, she collapsed backward. Rongqing swiftly stepped forward, catching her in his arms. His gaze toward me was laced with venom. Princess. Shuyi meant well in her warning. Why did you push her? I stared at Shinshuyi's bloodshot eyes nestled in his embrace. I sneered coldly. Pushed her? I wish I could kill her. I pointed at the jade ring on her finger and confronted father. Xinjiao Jingqi Donyo Yuan Jia Dai Yue Dao Yu. My mother's burial jade ring, how is it on her hand? Father's expression stiffened. Then he justified himself with righteous indignation. She is frail, this ring aids her. Your mother is dead, why wear jewelry? Tears finally spilled down my cheeks. I screamed wildly, so it's all true. You knew my mother was dead. You won't even leave the dead alone. Shinshuyi looked utterly innocent. Qinglang. I was just trying to bandage my sister's wound. What are they talking about? I don't understand. I wanted to tear her limb from limb. I swung a palm strike at her. Amid her exaggerated screams, Rongqing knocked me to the ground with a single palm strike. He gently comforted Shinshuyi in his arms. Shuyi, you mustn't be so kind anymore. Some people, the kinder you are to them, the more they hurt you. He shot me a cold glance before addressing father. Father-in-law, I shouldn't meddle in your family affairs. But if she dares mistreat Shuyi again, Don't blame me for showing no mercy. Father charged forward, such arrogance. If I don't teach you a lesson today, no one will respect me. The whip lashed fiercely toward me. My hand trembled as I tried to block it. And the token fell to the ground. Shadow guards immediately closed in. There are more shadow guards than just your squad. How dare you treat me this way today? Don't you fear the consequences? I cried out urgently. Capture the princess. Retrieve the token. Life or death, it matters not. Father's cold voice echoed. I couldn't believe it. My heart turned to ashes. Life or death, it matters not. In his eyes, power and status ultimately mattered more than me. The shadow guards, driven by his command, attacked with increasing ferocity. Mother Qin threw herself in front of me, shielding me with her life. But father's whip swept her up, slamming her hard onto the ground. Blood spurted from her mouth. Mother Qin! I cried out in horror. She had raised me since childhood. She was the closest person to me, next only to my mother. Stop! Stop this! Father paid no heed, his whip lashing down upon Qin Mama again and again. I broke free from the shadow guards and threw myself forward. Father's whip did not pause, striking me viciously as well. Qin Mama pressed a bloodstained token into my hand. Princess, your servant may not be able to accompany you any longer. Take care of yourself from now on. With her last ounce of strength, she lunged toward Shinshui, pressing the hairpin firmly against her throat. Step back. Let the princess go, or I'll kill her. Prince Pingnan and Rongqing's faces instantly tensed. Let her go. The soldiers beside Rongqing raised their arrows, aiming at Qin Mama. Qin Mama dragged Shinshui back step by step. Princess, you must leave. I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. Father commanded the shadow guards to restrain me, then lashed my back with a brutal whip. Release Shuyi. If a single hair on her head is harmed, I'll inflict 10 more wounds on your princess. If she spills a single drop of blood, the princess shall spill 10. Qin Mama's fingers trembled, gazing at my cold-hearted father. My heart shattered completely. So it wasn't that he didn't understand paternal love. In his heart, I was never as important as a stranger. If Shinshui suffered a single scratch, I would pay tenfold. If you hated me so much, why did you even bring me into this world? I asked him through my tears. He snatched the token from my hand without even glancing at me. If not for your mother shielding you, you'd have died long ago. He clamped his hand around my throat. I intended to grant you a dignified death. Now, if your life can save Shui's, it might serve some purpose. A dignified death? Like last lifetime? Forcing me to hang myself? I closed my eyes, tears streaming down my face. Who dares wish death upon my Yunjiao? A familiar voice echoed, filling my heart with wild joy. His Majesty burst into the chamber. Beside him stood a man dressed in the splendid attire of the southern frontier. Seeing me choked by my father, the emperor flew into a rage. Prince of Pingnan, what are you doing? Several people immediately knelt and cried out. Long live the emperor! Rongqing rushed to explain, Your Majesty. The princess's wet nurse was holding my wife hostage. The Prince of Pingnan was rescuing her. Rongqing? I recall it was you and the princess who were granted the marriage. And what about your wife? Father and Rongqing's faces instantly turned ashen. Rongqing stammered for a long moment before speaking. The princess. Her reputation is ruined. I gave you troops to rescue her. Yet you married another. How dare you? The Prince of Pingnan hastily pleaded, Your Majesty. The princess willingly married into the general's household as a secondary wife. A secondary wife. His grip tightened. His eyes filled with menace. Before I could speak, the elegant man flung a sachet from his waist. striking the Prince of Pingnan's hand. My throat suddenly felt free, and I began coughing violently. The Prince of Pingnan was sent flying by a kick from that man. He hurried forward to support me, staring at me blankly before calling out, "Sister! Sister?" Only when His Majesty cleared his throat did he help me forward. I knelt before His Majesty. "Uncle Emperor, Yunjiao refuses to be a concubine, refuses to be a secondary wife, and most of all, refuses to share a husband. I beg your Majesty to revoke the decree. Yunjiao would rather remain unmarried for life than endure further humiliation in the wrong household." "Insolent daughter! Silence! Shut her up!" the emperor roared at my father. He carefully lifted me up, wiped away my tears, and examined the wounds covering my body. "Physician! Where is the physician? Quickly tend to the princess's injuries." The man in the ornate robes clenched his fists. So this is how the great Xia dynasty treats its princesses. What an eye-opener. This time, I will bring Yunjiao back. Make her the most honored princess of our southern frontier. The emperor clenched his fists, gazing at Rongqing and the Prince of Pingnan with eyes that might as well have been looking at corpses. The Prince of Pingnan looked up in shock. "Princess?" Then, as if something dawned on him, he laughed bitterly. "So that's how it is. So that's how it is." He glared at me viciously. "Your very existence is my disgrace." His Majesty roared, "Enough. Gu Yuanshan, have you forgotten the vows you swore when you married Yunjiao's mother? You knew everything about this affair. You claimed it didn't matter. Yet you cared deeply. How many times have you harmed Yunjiao? Openly and in secret. All these years. Had it not been for her mother and me protecting her, she would have died 1,000 times over. Do you think her mother didn't know? Had she not begged me on her knees, you too would have died 1,000 times over." Ha 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 ha. He laughed maniacally. "Had it not been for the glory of the Prince of Pingnan's household, would I have abandoned my beloved and let my own flesh and blood wander the world? So that's how it was." I finally understood. From childhood onward, every time he secretly took me out, something would go wrong. Sometimes the horse bolted, other times we encountered refugees. Mother always forbade me from going out. Yet he insisted girls needed to see the world. This trip to the temple? He encouraged me to go. So from the very beginning, he wanted me dead. In my past life, he could coldly order me to kill myself. After I resisted, he strangled me himself, staging it to look like I'd taken my own life in shame. All because I wasn't his biological daughter. My heart felt no sorrow, only liberation. At last, I could stop yearning for a father's love that was never meant for me. "You actually believed she was your daughter?" The emperor sneered at the Prince of Pingnan. "Look closely. Her mother wasn't pregnant when she married Magistrate Shin. Shin Shuyi was born at full term. She's clearly Magistrate Shin's biological daughter." The Prince of Pingnan shook his head in disbelief. "Impossible. She explicitly said Shuyi was my daughter. She deceived you. For her daughter's sake. She deceived you from the very beginning. Back then, she schemed to humiliate you. It was Yunjiao's mother who rescued you. To gain entry into the palace, she drugged herself, only to stumble upon the magistrate resting. When the truth came out, she had no choice but to marry him. Poor you, she played you once before, and now she's played you again in death." The Prince of Pingnan murmured, "No. Su Xian wouldn't deceive me. In all the capital, only a fool like you would fall for her lies time and again." The emperor's words struck his heart like a heavy hammer. As they spoke, I nodded to Mother Qin. She understood immediately, easing her grip and slowly approaching me. But the instant she drew near, a sharp arrow pierced her chest. Blood instantly stained her robes crimson. My eyes widened as I watched her collapse before me. Behind her, Rongqing maintained his archer's stance. kneeling on the ground, his face dark. He pleaded for forgiveness. Your Majesty, this man approached you with a deadly weapon. I had no choice but to act. Please forgive me, Your Majesty. Chin Mama, Chin Mama. I rushed forward and embraced her. I pressed my hand over her wound, but the blood wouldn't stop. The warmth in my arms gradually faded. I turned to stare coldly at Rongqing and Shinshui, who trembled in his embrace. Fine. Absolutely splendid. The emperor trembled with rage, yet he was powerless against this new court favorite. I knelt before him. Your Majesty, Uncle. This humble servant accuses General Rong and the Prince of Pingnan. They colluded with bandits to kidnap this humble servant. Rongqing looked up with disdain. Princess, evidence is required for accusations. Don't forget, without us, you would have perished in the mountains long ago. His deputy echoed defiantly, indeed. Princess, the general fought for days to save you. Evidence, you say? I stared at him with scorn. Did the general notice anything amiss when we entered the mountains? What could be amiss? We attacked, entered the mountains, and then found the princess. The deputy's voice trailed off. I have the bandits across these mountains as my witnesses. I watched Rongqing's face turn instantly pale as I spoke, enunciating each word deliberately. Long before my rebirth, I made a wager with the mountain bandits. If General Rong truly intended to attack, you would heed my words and hide first. It turned out Rongqing had promised to incorporate them into his forces after the conquest. But on the day of the assault, he ordered no survivors. Only when the brothers at the front gate were nearly slaughtered did the bandits realize they'd been deceived. So they heeded my advice. The leader took my token to the capital. The rest hid in the secret passage. Seeing the bandits emerge from the passage, Rongqing's eyes burned with fury. It was you! You diverted their attention. I laughed scornfully. Not me, General. It was you, pushing things too far. It was their own greed. They wanted my life, yet also sought the glory of saving me. In my past life, Rongqing was in theft as a noble for rescuing me. His crime of defying the imperial decree by marrying Shinshui was pardoned when, at my father's urging, I agreed to become his secondary wife. The emperor thus dropped the matter. Yet on my wedding day, what awaited me was a white silk sash. He and the Prince of Pingnan coldly declared to me, "We're sorry. She desires only one partner for life." The princess's reputation utterly ruined. Unable to bear the shame, she took her own life, perfectly reasonable. If blame must be placed, blame His Majesty for forcing this marriage upon us. That suffocating feeling still lingers to this day. I knelt, my back straight as a rod. From behind the emperor stepped a bandit chieftain, the very leader I had negotiated with. He knelt upon the ground. Your servant abducted the princess at the behest of a noble within the city. Though the person never showed their face, they left a jade pendant engraved with the character Rong as proof. The emperor's uncle's gaze instantly sharpened. His eyes swept across the entire hall, finally settling on Rongqing. What more have you to say? Rongqing still tried to justify himself. This jade pendant. Perhaps it was stolen from me. The leader immediately interjected. When this criminal met that man, he wore lingling incense. This scent lingers for days, and if applied to an incense pouch or similar item, it can last months. The black dogs in our stronghold know this scent best. If you insist it wasn't you, General, dare you remove your incense pouch to prove it? Rongqing clutched the sachet at his waist tightly, his face ashen. The emperor understood everything. The deputy general still pleaded for him. Your Majesty, spare his life. The general only wished to unite with Lady Shin as lovers meant to be. It was the princess who interfered. Now that the princess is unharmed, we cannot punish a meritorious general and chill the hearts of our soldiers. As soon as he finished, all the soldiers who had stormed the mountain knelt to plead for mercy. The emperor was so enraged he could not speak. Yet the man in fine robes beside him clapped his hands and laughed. Well, well. So in the great Xia dynasty, one can extort rewards by exploiting military achievements. I hear the general was awarded his title after 3 daring raids into the Turkic camp, seizing the enemy commander's head. The soldiers, upon hearing this, felt a surge of shared pride. The emperor's expression darkened further. The Turks had always been a thorn in his side. When the victory report arrived, before Rongqing even reached the capital, the imperial decree of reward had already preceded him. Rongqing glared at the man. What are you implying? Turks are born with a dagger by their side. Any enemy who defeats them takes that dagger as a symbol of glory. Having claimed the head, the general surely took the dagger as well? A flicker of panic crossed Rongqing's face. That day, it was rushed. I only had time to take the head. The blue-clad man smiled. What an unfortunate coincidence. On my journey to the capital, I happened to rescue a wounded soldier. That dagger was in his possession. Cold sweat beaded on Rongqing's brow. The man called out meaningfully, Hey, here's your chance to clear your name. Come out. From behind him, a man who had kept his head bowed stepped forward. He knelt on one knee before His Majesty and presented the dagger. Your Majesty, please clear the names of the brothers who raided the enemy camp with this servant. Some soldiers recognized him. 10 days. It's you. But you were already. They looked from 10 days to the general before them. Rongqing. The emperor also recognized him. You're that lad from the Prince Rui's household? Weren't you studying at the academy? The man knelt on the ground. Your Majesty has keen eyes. Your servant was never cut out for books. 3 years ago, I joined the military, vowing to serve the nation faithfully. Yet I never imagined I would be betrayed by a traitor. He slowly revealed the truth of that year. After they had slain the Turkic chieftain, on the return journey to the city, Rongqing took advantage of his guard being down and pushed him off a cliff. Then, he carried the severed head back, claiming all the glory for himself. To conceal the truth, he slaughtered every member of their expeditionary force. Thus, he became a renowned general celebrated throughout the land, while the true heroes were forever buried at the frontier. You're slandering me. Rongqing panicked completely. I spoke coldly, so the months of failed assaults on Laoshan weren't the general's fault after all. The general's glorious military achievements were fabricated from the start. Shut your mouth. You should shut yours. His Majesty seized the dagger and hurled it fiercely at Rongqing. The blade whizzed past his ear, embedding itself deep into the wall. The man produced a map of the Tujua lands and presented it, besides the dagger. This servant also obtained this map. I implore your Majesty to judge us fairly. Watching this unfold, Rongqing's once straight spine finally bent. Unable to meet the questioning gazes of the soldiers below, he stared at the man like a madman. Why are you still alive? Why did you come back? You clearly said you didn't care for this wealth and glory. I don't care for wealth and glory, but I care for the lives of the brothers who fought and died alongside me. The man's eyes were bloodshot. It's your fault. It's all your fault. Rongqing suddenly rose, pointing his sword at me. I only wanted to marry Shi. It was you. You made His Majesty grant the marriage decree. I looked at him coldly. In the Golden Hall, His Majesty asked you 3 times. He asked if you had a betrothed, if you had someone in your heart. 3 times you shook your head and said no. His Majesty then asked if you would marry me. And you nodded yourself. All of this is caused by your own cowardice. His eyes blazing crimson, he charged forward with his sword raised. How could you imperial relatives ever understand our suffering? Power and privilege crush people, how could I dare refuse? If you'd just obediently become a concubine, none of this would have happened. Why didn't you nod in agreement like you did in your past life? My heart jolted. You know about my past life too? I burst into laughter. Like in my past life, forced to death the moment I entered your door? His eyes widened as his sword stabbed toward me. Chaos erupted. Just as I thought certain death awaited me, a figure stepped before me. It was the Prince of Pingnan, kneeling nearby. He collapsed at the blow. The Emperor's guards immediately drew their bows, wounding Rong Qing. Take him away, the Emperor ordered, his face dark. The Prince of Pingnan reached out. His eyes filled with hope as he looked at me. I merely looked at him calmly, swallowing my last breath. Even if he finally saw the light in his final moment, what good would it do? The harm he caused was real. I couldn't forgive him for the person I was in my past life. Shinshui had long since cowered in the corner, terrified. Leave her to you, Yun Jiao, the Emperor said wearily. I watched Shinshui as I walked toward her step by step, terrified out of her wits. She kept kowtowing. Princess, spare my life. Princess, spare my life. I gave a cold order to my men. Cut off her hands. Bind her to my mother's grave. Make her kowtow for 100 days. Didn't you fancy being someone's wife? Once she's atoned, send her outside the city to be a beggar's wife. Make sure she doesn't die. They dragged her away as she struggled. I stroked the shadow guard token my mother had left me. Coldly, I watched the trembling shadow guards below. Under my gaze, they crushed the poison in their mouths one by one. For them, this was the easiest way to die. This incident reminded me, only by becoming strong myself could I protect everything I wished to safeguard. After it was all over, that man in blue, my brother, stepped forward and took my hand. Sister, he said, you bear a striking resemblance to the portrait of you in Father's palace. The moment I first saw you, I knew you were my sister. I looked at my uncle in confusion. He sighed and revealed the secret from years past. It turned out my biological father was a hostage sent from the southern frontier to the Great Xia court, where he fell in love with my mother. When he returned to the southern frontier, my mother was already pregnant, but she mistakenly believed he had taken another wife. After giving birth to us siblings, she instructed my uncle to send only my brother back to the southern frontier, telling him she had died. A single misunderstanding kept them apart for over a decade, and subjected me to years of torment within the Prince of Pingnan's mansion. My brother gazed at me tenderly. Father is gravely ill and longs to see you. I looked at my uncle, who nodded encouragingly. Go, he said. I command the young man from the Prince of Rui's household to escort you. I nodded. The climate of the southern frontier was far more humid than that of Great Xia. Throughout the journey, Xiao Linzhou kept stealing glances at me. My brother, however, constantly found excuses to stand between us. That kid? A toad trying to eat swan meat, he muttered under his breath. Watching Xiao Linzhou, now neatly dressed and standing tall, I silently retorted in my mind, not exactly a toad. Though, sis, you can always count on your brother's advice. Few men in this world are as handsome as your brother. Those more handsome than him? They're bound to be full of tricks. You'd better keep your eyes peeled. Seeing Xiao Linzhou's face turn ashen, I quietly pursed my lips and giggled. Upon reaching the capital of the southern frontier kingdom, a grand welcoming procession awaited outside the city gates. A man who looked even older than my uncle stood atop a platform, his gaze fixed intently on me. As he watched, tears welled up in his eyes. Before I could even bow in greeting, he pulled me tightly into his embrace. I felt momentarily flustered. In both my lifetimes, only my uncle and mother had ever held me. The Prince of Pingnan had never once embraced me. Only then did I realize how warm a father's embrace could be. He led me into the palace, presenting every rare and precious treasure before me. Seeing his anxious anticipation, I nodded and said I loved them all. His joy was written all over his face. Whether I should be a princess of the Great Xia or a princess of the southern frontier had caused a fierce argument in their letters. My uncle and father, 2 men nearing 100 years combined, had clashed fiercely over it. Finally, they agreed I would be princess 1 year and return as princess of the commandery the next. But just as they sealed the deal, Xiao Linzhou arrived to propose marriage, bringing with him my uncle's former teacher, the only elder who had ever spoken up for my father when he was held hostage. My uncle slapped his thigh and agreed on the spot. He was overjoyed at the prospect of me marrying back into Great Xia. My father and brother sat on the palace steps, venting their frustration. This is your father's savior. We had to give him this favor. Damn it! The Great Xia King is despicable. And you couldn't even keep an eye on your sister. You come back once and she's already being married off. What kind of nonsense is this? My brother stubbornly retorted. If father had the guts, he would have refused. Find someone better than him in the southern frontier to marry your sister. They exchanged a glance and fell silent. Search the entire southern frontier, none as handsome as Xiao Linzhou who possessed his abilities, and none as capable as him who matched his looks. In the end, they could only leave the decision to me. They didn't know. Long before we reached the southern frontier, Xiao Linzhou had produced the mask I'd given him years ago on the street, declaring his feelings to me. I was overjoyed that someone could remember me so deeply for so many years. So when I learned of his marriage proposal, I nodded my consent. The following year, the grand wedding brought nationwide celebrations across both the southern frontier and the Great Xia. As my wedding palanquin entered the capital city, an old beggar woman stood at the city gate. She merely glanced a few extra times before being beaten by the other beggars around her. Slacker! Get back to washing clothes and cooking. In just 1 year, she had aged into a withered old crone. Yet my journey of blossoming had only just begun. The end.